Say what's up in the chat as you come in. Say what's up in the chat as you guys come in. June 4th, 2025 on a Thursday? No, Wednesday? Today's Wednesday, right? Dude, it's crazy because all the moving I'm doing at work. Yeah, man, my fault, guys. June 4th, 2025 on a Wednesday. Welcome to Cozy Corner TV, ladies and gentlemen. I am your host, Kieran Smith, call me Q, and we are on the corner. We're on the corner. What is up, y'all? As you come in alive, say what's up. Tell me where you're watching from. Welcome back, everybody. So, guys, as per usual, I'm going to jump right in as to what is on the menu for today. As a huge advocate for mental health and wellness, I ask that you make sure you are grounded and or regulated during this live stream. Why? Because news can be triggering. I always say that, right? So if you're not grounded or regulated right now, come back and watch it later. If you are, what is up? Welcome to the live stream. And as per usual, we're going to jump right in. I'm going to name off what we're going to be diving in today. So first up on the menu, we got Matt Morris TV. Shout out to Matt Morris. We love him over here on the channel. CNN host implodes over shocking new poll. So this was actually a video we went over during last night's live. I played it. Sometimes I play like kind of like a newsathon where I'm not talking as much and you guys are doing more watching and I'm watching with you. And sometimes I pull a video from that live stream and we're gonna react more deeper into it today. So we'll take a look at that. Then we'll switch gears and we'll go to 13 WMAZ. Shout out to them. Watch. Speaker Mike Johnson responds to Elon Musk calling budget bill disgusting abomination. So you know the the media is having a frenzy with this one, right? Like they're having a ball with it. Elon Musk and President Trump aren't getting along. Elon Musk slams bill. Elon Musk can't stand President Trump. So we know they're going on and on. By the way, Mike Johnson, I think he did great when the way he articulated this. I think he was balanced. So we're going to take a look at what he has to say about Elon's X-tweet, if you will, and he's going to react to that a little bit because a reporter is going to ask him a question. Then we'll switch gears and go over to Nate, the lawyer. Shout out to Nate. DOJ investigates Chicago's mayor's no whites policy. Okay, so we got Scott Johnson over in Chicago, the mayor of Chicago, having a no whites hiring frenzy. Let's just put it like that. He does explain himself. I'm not going to spoil it. We'll look at his reasoning for why he's doing what he's doing, and he does have his own reasoning. So we'll take a look at that. Then we'll switch gears and we'll go to CBS News. Elon Musk calls on Congress to kill Trump's budget bill. So we'll take a look at that, and then we will finish the night off with a clip from Cliff Buell. The Holy Spirit touched her, so we're going to take a look at that tonight. We usually end the live stream over here with a clip from Cliff Buell, or if not him, it'll be another YouTube content creator that focuses on Christian content to some extent. Alright guys, with that being said, we're going to jump right into the first clip of the night. CNN host implodes over shocking new poll. Shout out to Matt Morris TV. Let's take a listen.
Ladies and gentlemen, today we've just gotten a hold of some brand new polling data, and I'll tell you what, somehow things just got even worse for the Democrats. As you all know, for months now, the Democrats have been struggling with catastrophically low approval ratings. They've been absolutely bleeding support nationwide. Really, there's been a mass exodus away from the Democratic Party across the entire country. But so like I said, for the Democrats, things just got even worse. Take a look.
Yeah, you would think after all of the ways, Kate Baldwin, after the last few months, the first 5 months of the Donald Trump presidency, right, the first 4 months of the Donald Trump presidency, that you expect that Democrats would have this massive lead on the economy. It ain't so. It ain't so. The party that is closest to your economic views, in November of 2023, it was the Republicans by 11 points. Now it's still within that range, still within that margin of error. Plus 8-point advantage for the Republican Party. How is that possible, Democrats? How is that possible after all the recession fears, after the stock market's been doing all of this, after all the tariffs that Americans are against, and Republicans still hold an 8-point lead on the economy? Are you kidding me?
So folks, did you catch all of that?
Yeah, that's not that shocking. It's because how tone deaf the Democratic Party is. MHA, shout out to you. Said hi in the chat. I see you. Shout out to you guys in the chat. Yeah, it's not shocking at all. He's like, how is this happening, Democrats? Well, the reason why it's happening is because how tone deaf the Democrats are. We've been talking about this on the channel. He says while the economy's been going up and down, while the stock market's been doing all of this, and it's like, dude, because your party is in a panic, and you guys are pushing a rhetoric that the American people can blatantly see is not true. That's the reason why the Republicans, let's see, how much did he say they're up? The GOP has plus 11 points. That's the reason why. November 2023, plus 11 points. May 2025, GOP plus 8 points. And he's like, how is that possible? Because of how tone deaf the Democrats are and have been post-election. Not listening to the people, right? Just bad Trump. Get President Trump out of office. How could this person have won? Let's vote against every bill. They're not paying attention. That's the reason why the GOP is up.
With an 8-point lead on the economy? Are you kidding me?
So, folks, did you catch all of that? After all of the Democrats' nonstop fear-mongering, after all of the Democrats' anti-Trump propaganda, the vast majority of Americans nationwide still believe that President Trump's economic policies are what's best for the country. And you know why? Because all of us Americans can see what his policies are doing every day. They are working. But you know what? If you thought that was bad news for the Democrats, I've got another thing I want you guys to see. But first, I do want to say real quick that if you all enjoy the daily news updates, please consider subscribing to the channel because it really does help a ton. But okay, check this out.
Historically speaking, which is the party of the middle class has been a huge advantage for Democrats. I have polling from NBC going all the way back since 1989 when Democrats had a 23-point advantage. 2016, a 17-point advantage. But by this decade, we already started seeing declines back in 2022 where you saw that Democrats led, but only by 4 points, well within the margin of error.
This is interesting because he has it right here, which is the party of the middle class. So Dems versus GOP margin in percent points amongst registered voters. It's kind of cut off there because of his head. But here we have the year 1989, the Democratic Party, plus 23%. 2016, plus 17%. Then in 2022, it dropped to plus 4%. And now it's tied. So he's talking about I'm telling you, these CNN anchors, like this is hilarious to watch because they're baffled. Like they are mind boggled. How is this happening? And I'm like, dude, you're watching your own party. It's happening because they're not listening to the mandate of the American people themselves, and they're attacking their own president as if he's the president of the Republican Party and not the Democratic Party as well.
And now in our latest CNN poll among registered voters, which is the party of the middle class? It is tied. This, I think, speaks to Democratic ills more than anything else. They have traditionally been the party of the middle class. No more. Donald Trump and the Republican Party have taken that mantle away, and now a key advantage for Democrats historically has gone adios amigos, and now there is no party that is the party of the middle class. Republicans have completely closed the gap, Kate.
Ladies and gentlemen, that is game over for the Democrats. For decades now, the primary selling point of the Democratic Party is that they've been viewed as the party of the working class. But now, between President Trump's America First agenda and the Democrats' own ineptitude, they've managed to lose the one thing that they still had going for them. But you know what? We're not even done yet because somehow it gets even worse for the Democrats. Take a look.
This is Pod 5, the first fully immersive sleep system. Intelligent.
A longtime member of the Kentucky General Assembly switching to the Republican Party, marking an end to all Democrat representation in rural Kentucky. It's a major blow to state Democrats who usually held a stronghold in rural areas. And Democrat Governor Andy Beshear, often listed as a potential future White House candidate, too. That former Democrat turned Republican, Kentucky State Senator Robin Webb, joins us now. So great to see you, Senator. So you've been a Democrat for all your life. This is a big deal for you to switch. I know that Democrats in the rural part of Virginia, where I'm from, it's a really big deal for them. What was the last straw for you?
Well, first a correction. I first registered Republican when I was young, and when I went into coal mining as an occupation. That's when I registered Democrat. So that's a slight correction. But so I'm coming back. But it wasn't really a last straw per se. This has been a culmination of several policy shifts through the past few years, and how the rural voice, I've been the rural, tried to be the rural voice, but it's just gone not unheard, but certainly not acknowledged and not given the credence that I would think our people need.
And so, ladies and gentlemen, there you have it. Things have gotten so bad for the Democrats that not only have they lost almost all support amongst American voters, but now they're also losing their own politicians. And why? Because everyday hardworking Americans aren't being treated properly by the Democratic Party, and because they've also adopted so many radically progressive, insane policies. You could maybe make a reasonable argument that the Democrats in the 1990s were a reasonably well-adjusted political party. They maybe had some reasonable points. But these days, not only do they not represent hardworking Americans, they're also completely insane as well. But really, perhaps the biggest single problem for the Democratic Party right now is that not even young Americans are on their side. And as you all know, historically speaking, young Americans have been one of the Democratic Party's largest strongholds. And so this massive problem is why the Democrats are planning a $20 million initiative to target young men specifically, trying to get them back on the side of progressivism. The problem, however, is that they've hired probably the worst person alive to lead this initiative. Take a look.
Oh, I also think it's just so abundantly clear that the people who say these things don't actually spend time talking to young men. And you know this because we know each other in real life, but I spend a lot of time on college campuses. And I spend a lot of time with
young men.
I love young men. I love frat guys. And in that, I realized, even the ones that identify as conservative are almost always pro-choice. They're almost always pro-gay marriage. You'd be surprised at the number of them who supported Black Lives Matter. And so I feel like people just kind of lump them into this box when the truth is, again, a lot of them are with us on the issues. They're just not part of our coalition because they feel like they're not welcomed in it.
So yeah, ladies and gentlemen, all of that is their master plan. They're actually deluded enough to think that young American men already agree with the entire progressive platform, but the problem is that young men don't feel welcomed and embraced enough by the Democratic Party. Listen, folks, let's just be honest here for a moment, and by the way, I apologize if I'm about to sound a little bit rude. We all know how young men are. Young men are not looking to be emotionally coddled by a morbidly obese, radically progressive woman who represents the Democratic Party. If you want to appeal to young men, you need to have some badass guy like Hulk Hogan try to reach out to them, but that's never going to happen because badass guys aren't Democrats. And that's on top of the fact that her initial presumption is just totally wrong. Young men most certainly do not agree with the modern progressive platform. I'm sorry, but that is just not the case. In fact, to the contrary, all the data we currently have shows the exact opposite. This generation of young men are perhaps the most conservative, most traditional, maybe even the most regressive men that we've had in a very long time. And hey, I'm 31, so maybe I'm even a little bit too old to be included in this conversation, but you know what? I'm right there with them. And so folks, all of that ties into what I want to show you next. Take a look.
Donald Trump's approval rating, according to a Rasmussen poll. 51% of Americans approve of the job Donald Trump is doing. And we like this poll. We looked at it. More than 1,000 registered voters from both parties. This is a real poll. This is a good poll. But the New York Times claimed that the only way Donald Trump could possibly have a good approval rating is because people aren't paying attention to what he's doing.
Ladies and gentlemen, you heard that correctly. 5 months into his presidency, Donald Trump has a whopping 51% national approval rating. And as you saw, the left-wing media has absolutely no idea how to spin it. They're actually trying to make the claim that the only reason President Trump's approval ratings are so high is because Americans across the country just aren't paying attention, whatever that.
Okay, so he has so let me get this straight. That's what they come up with. So his approval rating is 51%. His approval rating is 51%. So over half of the country approves on what their president is doing, and at the same time, they're paying attention to absolutely nothing. That's a lie. That's actually ridiculous.
That means, in reality, the reason why President Trump's approval ratings are so high is because Americans are paying attention. Very
Yeah,
close
no
attention, in
kidding.
fact. We're all watching day by day as President Trump digs this country out of the mess that the Democrats got us into, and we're all sitting on the sidelines cheering him on. So you know what, folks? Based on everything we've just talked about today, it is abundantly obvious that the Democrats really just have absolutely no idea what they're doing. They're screwed, they have no plan, but even worse, they don't even have a competent leader. But you know what? Personally, I'm not too worried.
And two people that most people would consider prominent leaders in the Democratic Party, on that side anyway. Chucky Schumer, AOC. Even the news has taken this and have talked about how they're going head to head. How, it's going to be a war, Chuck Schumer versus AOC. And I'm like, this is pathetic. This could be like her grandfather. And that's not a shot at Chuck Schumer. I mean, but he's a ranking member. Like, this guy's a long-standing dude in his position. And I mean, instead of encouraging this young woman, I don't know, training her, like making her more, I don't know, maybe centered and not so far left as some people think she is. It's like it's Chuck Schumer versus AOC. It's complete disarray in the Democratic Party, and we've seen it more. I think it's gotten crazier post-election, but we saw it right before it at the same time.
About it. Because as their entire party continues to implode, we are all over here putting America first. Now, ladies and gentlemen, before we wrap up, I do want to say real quick that we officially have a Morse News Twitter page as well as a Morse News Facebook page. So if you use either of those platforms, please go down below and drop a follow in order to get breaking news updates that relate.
All right, guys. Shout out to Matt Morris. Head over to his channel when you get a chance. I think Matt makes a great point. Let me address Zombie in the chat real quick. Zombie says, "Yo, man, I ain't black. I am an immigrant. Why you support Trump, man? We are brothers." Hey, Zombie, check this out, bro. Just because two things can be true at the same time, man, I get it. But just because somebody supports one thing, it doesn't mean they completely hate the other thing, all right? First of all, I've served the military of this country, so I had, I'm not gonna say I'm not in a position, but my heart positionally has never been in a place where I've hated immigrants or I don't think immigrants deserve to be in America. If anything, that's partially the reason why I did fight for the country. Our country has always been a country where people can come seek asylum. We don't care about that over here. We care about if it's done the right way. We care about how people are coming, right? Supporting President Trump in any way, shape, or form, or to whatever extent that I do, that would just be because it's one, I'm not going to get on the internet and bash my president because it's just distasteful. It makes us look weak as a country. That's what I believe as a person who served the military in this country. And I didn't serve during a time when numbers were low. I served during a time where people were patriotic and they were all about serving their country still, right? So I'm never going to get online and bash my commander-in-chief. If I don't agree with him, I can be critical. I can point things out. But as far as just a bash fest, that's not going to happen. And I would never get on here and just completely bash immigrants either. Like, this is a country where we're okay with immigrants coming in. Now, people objecting to how they come in and if they come in illegally, that's a separate issue. But just because someone supports their president, it doesn't mean that they hate immigrants, bro. It doesn't mean that. It could just be a matter of respect. So with that being said, this is one of the things Matt pointed out to me, pointed out to us that stuck out to me, was President Trump's approval rating. This is what I'm saying. like, so many people are saying, I can't believe, with what he's doing with immigration, taxes, and tariffs, the only reason why his approval rating could be, the only possible reason why his approval rating could be over half of the country approving of what he's doing is because everyone's blind. No one's paying attention. This is where it kind of gets ridiculous. And, you have to ask yourself, is this, what is the media doing here with this type of information? So 51% of us are not paying attention to President Trump, but we're all just saying yes. What are we, zombies? What are we, robots? That's not what's happening at all. If anything, the country, I believe, is paying close attention to him, especially those who voted for him. Let us not forget that because of the way the election went, there clearly is a mandate for President Trump to be where he's at the moment. All right, guys, so with that being said, we're going to switch gears. Jump over to 13WMAZ. Shout out to them. Watch Speaker Mike Johnson respond to Elon Musk calling budget bill disgusting abomination. All right, so let's take a look at what Elon had to say and what Mike Johnson responded back.
2024 election, how much of a threat is this to keeping the majority?
Look, let me just address the Elon controversy and tell you that I consider Elon a friend. He's obviously brilliant. I just told you we credit him with all the big changes with Doge and everything else. It's curious to me what happened this week. And full disclosure, Elon and I had a great conversation, about a half-hour long talk on Monday this week. Monday morning, and we talked about the big beautiful bill, because I think he was trying to make a joke a couple of days earlier. It can't be big and beautiful, and I started the conversation. Oh yes, it can, my friend. It's very beautiful. So we talked about all the record level of savings. My friends, no government in the history of mankind has ever cut $1.6 trillion in a piece of legislation. We're doing that here. The extraordinary level of savings and the historic level of tax cuts at the same time, and all these great policy prescriptions. And I talked to Elon through all that and explained to him what we're doing, and that this is just the beginning of a long process of making government more efficient and effective, of cutting wasteful spending, fraud, and abuse. And that you can't do it all in one bill. It took Congress decades to get to this situation. It's going to take us a little while to get out of it, but we have a very specific plan to do that. And Elon was encouraged by that conversation. We had it was a very friendly, very fruitful conversation together. And he and I talked about the midterm elections, and he said, well, I'm going to help. We got to make sure that the Republicans keep the House majority. We can't have the president impeached, which is what the Democrats would do on day one, as we all well know. And we've got to continue this. The Trump administration needs 4 years to do all this reform, not 2 years. The Biden administration, Biden-Harris, made such a disaster of every metric of public policy, it's going to take us more than one bill to fix it all. Elon and I left on a great note. We were texting one another, happy texts, Monday. And then yesterday, 24 hours later, he does a 180 and he comes out and opposed the bill. And it surprised me, frankly. And I don't take it personal. We don't take it personal. Policy differences are not personal. I think he's flat wrong. I think he's way off on this, and I've told him as much, and I've said it publicly and privately. I'm very consistent in that. But am I concerned about the effect of this on the midterms? I'm not. Let me tell you why. Because when the big beautiful bill is done and signed into law, every single American is going to do better. This bill is geared for middle and working class Americans, and they are going to feel the effects of it, and they're going to feel it before the midterm elections. So I have no concern whatsoever. I'm absolutely convinced that we're going to win the midterms and grow the House majority, because we're delivering for the American people and fulfilling our campaign promises, and we'll see how that happens. Second row, Representative.
You voted a second reconciliation package. What would be in that second package once you'll get to it?
I'm not going to tell you that this morning. Great question. No, yeah, let's get the first one done. Leader's been around Washington a while.
Mike Johnson has a great voice, man.
I said this is the beginning of a process, and what you're going to see is a continuing theme of us identifying waste, fraud, and abuse in government, which is our pledge of common sense, restoring common sense and fiscal sanity. So we have lots of ideas of things that might be in that package, but as you know, for the first reconciliation package, for the big beautiful bill, we worked on this for about 14 months. This wasn't something we just drew up overnight. So we'll go through that same laborious process, and it'll be fruitful in the end. We'll do right by the American people.
So, I love the way Mike Johnson handles himself. I've liked Mike Johnson for some time. I think he does well on the floor. He doesn't usually get cornered by reporters. They usually don't stump him to where he can't answer questions. I like when he said to Elon, Elon said it can't be big and beautiful, and I did watch that interview. I like Mike Johnson's refute there where he says, oh yes it can, my friend. Mike Johnson's got a great voice. He sounded like a country singer there when he dropped it for a moment. But what I do appreciate is that he said that he was transparent. He said, we were talking about the bill. We, Elon and I were texting friendly. He seemed encouraged by the conversation, and then 24 hours later, he kind of completely opposes the bill. And he says, frankly, it shocked me. He's like, but basically, he's not upset about it. He's not caught off guard. He's not discouraged. It did shock him, but he's saying, he's not upset about it. He's not caught off guard. And I think that I think that that's mature of him. It's kind of what I was just saying to Zombie in the chat. Like, two things can be true at once. Just because someone opposes something or they're not in favor of it doesn't mean now Elon Musk is like, I hate President Trump and Mike Johnson and Pete Hegseth and I wish I never served in the cabinet. Like, he's not saying those things. He's not in favor of the bill. And just because you are a Republican or even a part of the president's cabinet doesn't mean you're going to be in favor of every single thing he does. So, right on to Mike Johnson for speaking up and saying, hey, this is not an immaturity thing. Like, Elon opposes it. That's fine. That's his own opinion. Mike Johnson says, I think he's off about this, but it's not like it's war in the White House, right? It's just Elon's not in favor of the bill. Yeah, he's went public on X to go as far as to say things like kill the bill, call your congressman, call your senator, kill the bill, which I thought was hilarious. But I mean, he has a right to his own opinion, right? He's on his own platform saying, hey, this is how I feel about it. So I'm not worried about this. I don't think it's a big deal, but we know the media is going to take it and put their spin on it and pervert it and do all of that good stuff that they do with it in the crock pot. So we just gonna follow it, and we're gonna see what happens with the bill as it goes through the House. All right, guys. So we're gonna switch gears and go over to Nate, the lawyer. Shout out to Nate. DOJ investigates Chicago mayor's no whites policy. All right. So I'm not gonna lie, this is crazy. Like when I saw the headline, I was already like, here we go. Scott Johnson, man. I'm like, Scott, why? Why are we doing this? Why are we in the news again for something flamboyant? But that's not that's not shocking when it comes to Scott Johnson. I'm just like, oh man, this is gonna look crazy. But once again, the media is gonna take it and put their spin on it. I watched a little bit of it. He does go into depth, or he does give some explanation as to what this means and why he's been, let's just say, navigating this way. So I'm not even gonna spoil it.
Economic neighborhood development.
I'm not even gonna spoil it. We're gonna take a listen at what he has to say. Oh my God, I'm gonna kill that fly.
Business and economic neighborhood development. The deputy mayor is a black woman. Department of Planning and Development. It's a black woman. Infrastructure deputy mayor is a black woman. Chief operations officer is a black man. Budget director is a black woman. Senior advisor is a black man. Our people hire our people.
A few moments later.
The Justice Department citing that exact moment in this letter to Mayor Johnson today, saying if these kind of hiring decisions are being made for top-level positions in your administration, then it begs the question whether such decisions are also being made for lower-level positions.
It's a good question to ask.
Now, as a lawyer, there are certain things that I think are just so obvious that I don't have to tell you. Like, hiring people based solely on the color of their skin is illegal. It's illegal at the federal level, it's illegal at the state level, it's illegal at the city level. It's just wholeheartedly illegal, no matter how you cut it. So if I'm hiring you just because you're white, that's illegal. If I'm hiring you just because you're black, that's also illegal. Now, you may be asking, why am I telling you this? This is something that's obvious, that the video could be over right now. But the mayor of Chicago has said that he actually hires people based off the color of their skin. Check it out.
Some detractors that will push back on me and say, the only thing the mayor talks about is the hiring of black people. No, what I'm saying is when you hire our people, we always look out for everybody else. We are the most generous people on the planet. I don't know too many cultures that have play cousins. That's how generous we are. We just make somebody a family member, right? This is how we are. And so, business and economic neighborhood development, the deputy mayor is a black woman. Department of Planning and Development is a black woman. Infrastructure deputy mayor is a black woman. Chief operations officer is a black man. Budget director is a black woman. Senior advisor is a black man. And I'm laying that out because when you ask how do we ensure that our people get a chance to grow their business, having people in my administration that will look out for the interest of everyone, and everyone means you have to look out for the interests of black folks.
Now, I want to challenge you people out there to go back and to play that segment again, but every time he says black, you say white. And see how that comes off. If that doesn't come off as a little racist. Let me show you.
Other detractors that will push back on me and say, you know, the only thing that the mayor talks about
Is the hiring of white people.
No, what I'm saying is when you hire our people, we always look out for everybody else. We are the most generous people on the planet. I don't know too many cultures that have play cousins. That's how generous we are. We just make somebody a family member, right? This is how we are. And so, Business and Economic Neighborhood Development, the deputy mayor,
Is a white man.
Department of Planning and Development,
Is a white man.
Infrastructure, deputy mayor,
Is a white man.
Chief Operations Officer,
Is a white man.
Budget Director,
Is a white man.
Senior Advisor.
Is a white man.
And I'm laying that out because when you ask how do we ensure that our people get a chance to grow their business, having people in my administration that will look out for the interests of everyone, and everyone means you have to look out for the interests of
White folks. Now, obviously, what he's saying there could be taken to be incredibly racist if he was saying it as a white man, saying it about white people. And even think about what he's saying now. He's essentially overgeneralizing. All black people are this type of way. And I'm hiring black people in these positions because they're essentially a monolith. They're all going to act the same way. Now, I would say if I was a white person going for one of those positions, I think you can claim that you have a legitimate beef, right? I didn't have a chance because he didn't say that, hey, I'm looking for the best person. He essentially is only looking for the best black person to fit into this narrow description of this overgeneralization of black people. You know, let's call a spade a spade. Black people have suffered at the hands of white people in this particular country. But that doesn't mean this is what's going on today. And I think acknowledging that we went from slavery to the civil rights era to the first black president, and to me that means something. But at the same time, I don't think the answer to fight discrimination is more discrimination. We literally live in a world where you can only say certain words if you're of a certain race. Like, let's just call it what it is, the N-word. I can say it as much as I want. I can say it pretty much anywhere. As a matter of fact, I can even say it in this video, and there won't be any backlash. Why? Because I happen to be black. But if you happen to be white, matter of fact, if you happen to be Hispanic, ask J-Lo.
I'm real.
Yeah.
Contains a word in the remix, and I understand it's going to be on the CD soon. The N-word, pardon me for saying it. You've upset an awful lot of people. Tell me what your thoughts are on that.
You know, for anyone to think or suggest or say that I'm racist is really absurd and hurtful to me. You know, the use of the word in the song, which was actually written by Ja Rule, was never meant to be hurtful in any way.
That word is not available to you without any type of repercussions. Now, the nuance in the law is important. You may be shocked, but Brandon Johnson appointing all of those people to those high-level positions that just happen to be black, that doesn't actually violate the law. Here is Title VII of the Civil Rights Act of 1964. Under definitions, it says the term employee shall not include any person elected to public office in any state or political subdivision of any state by the qualified voters. That's Mayor Johnson. Or any person chosen by such officer, Mayor Johnson, to be on such officer's personal staff or an appointee on the policy-making level. So that was a complicated way of me saying that Mayor Johnson's political appointments cannot violate the civil rights law because they're exempt from the law. So if an all-black mayor appoints all black people or an all-white mayor appoints all white people, it doesn't matter because it wouldn't be a violation of the Civil Rights Act. So now, you may just be asking, so why is the Department of Justice opening an investigation into their hiring practices if their hiring practices don't violate the law? Well, the Justice Department thinks they do. And the reason why they think it might violate the law is because even though Mayor Johnson can hire all of the black people at the top levels of administration, he can't do that for all jobs. For instance, the assistants, the accountants, the police officers, everyone other than those top appointed officials. So when Mayor Johnson says, our people, black people, hire our people, black people, that makes it seem like he's being racist toward other people. And this is a quote that the Department of Justice is really concerned about. Listen to what Mayor Johnson says.
our people hire our people. And so one of the ways in which we're ensuring, let me back up for a second. So when we say our people hire our people, I just want to name this. 2 administrations ago, 70 to 75% of the administration was primarily made up of white and white men. In my administration, 45% of my administration is black, 25% is Latin, 30% is white, 8% is Asian.
So Mayor Johnson said, hey, I appointed all of these people who happen to be black in these positions. The black people hire black people, and you can see that by the numbers of black people who now work for the city. Before it was majority white. Now it's majority black, Hispanic, and everything else but white. We've been systematically not hiring white people. That's essentially what he's saying. And that makes the city more diverse, and he's saying that his hiring practices, again, this is my interpretation of it, he's saying that his hiring practices are based on race. So the Justice Department said, hey, we think this is a civil rights violation. If you're only hiring people based on the color of their skin, and you're not hiring people based on the color of their skin.
Our people hire our people. And so one of the ways in which we're ensuring, let me back up for a second. So when we say our people hire our people, I just want to name this. 2 administrations ago, 70 to 75% of the administration was primarily made up of white and white men. In my administration, 45% of my administration is black, 25% is Latin, 30% is white, 8% is Asian.
The Justice Department citing that exact moment in this letter to Mayor Johnson today, saying if these kind of hiring decisions are being made for top-level positions in your administration, then it begs the question whether such decisions are also being made for lower-level positions. Title VII of the Civil Rights Act prevents employment discrimination.
Now, Mayor Johnson did respond to the Department of Justice's probe into his hiring practices.
Today, Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson defended his hiring practices. He appeared unswayed.
So this part right here, let me go back a little bit.
So the Justice Department said, hey, we think this is a civil rights violation. If you're only hiring people based on the color of their skin, and you're not hiring people based on the color of their skin.
Our people hire our people. And so one of the ways in which we're ensuring, let me back up for a second. So when we say our people hire our people, I just want to name this. 2 administrations ago, 70 to 75%.
Mind you, just by Scott Johnson saying, this is not the part I wanted to fully stop at, but one of them, just by him saying that statement, our people hire our people. So now I'm going to go ahead and go with what, let's just call him the lawyer said, right? But we know this is Nate the lawyer, but the lawyer. I'm going to go with what Nate said, right? If this was a white man saying, our people hire our people, bro, the first of all, the black people on the internet would be losing their mind, and Black Lives Matter would be having a seizure, and it would be all over the place talking about, oh, look at this, like, look at what they're doing. See, we said it was systemic racism. Okay, but so when it's a black person doing it, it's okay. This is where I have to challenge my black and brown people that look like me, black and Hispanic people, because I'm like, come on, guys. Like, we're not being sensible when we do stuff like this. You have to admit, this sounds straight up racist. It can't be that because he's black, it's okay that he's saying this. But yet, I'll have some people that will push back on me and say, yeah, it is okay that he's saying this because, black people aren't really racist. Come on, that sounds crazy because this sounds racist.
Percent of the administration is primarily made up of white and white men. In my administration, 45% of my administration is black, 25% is Latin, 30% is white, 8% is Asian.
The Justice Department citing that exact moment in this letter to Mayor Johnson today, saying if these kind of hiring decisions are being made for top-level positions in your administration, then it begs the question whether such decisions are also being made for lower-level positions. Title VII of the Civil Rights Act prevents employment discrimination.
Now, Mayor Johnson did respond to the Department of Justice's probe into his hiring practices.
Today, Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson defended his hiring practices. He appeared unswayed by a DOJ investigation that looks into if his office violated any laws against discrimination. NBC5's Jen Shans shows us the new reaction from the mayor.
This is a quintessential example of the type of divisiveness that this president wants us to have.
Given the criticism, is there anything in your rhetoric that you would change in hindsight?
The question was a specific question that was asked about black contracts in particular.
So my opinion is that I think it's obvious. The mayor's obviously hiring people based on the color of their skin and not the content of their character.
I have a dream.
Investigation that looks into is if his office violated any laws against discrimination. NBC5's Jen Shans shows us the new reaction from the mayor.
This is practices.
Today, Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson defended his hiring practices. He appeared unswayed by a DOJ investigation that looks into is if his office violated any laws against discrimination. NBC5's Jen Shans shows us the new reaction from the mayor.
This is a quintessential example of the type of divisiveness that this president wants us to have.
Given the criticism,
This has nothing to do with the president. He's the one that answered the question. This is what I'm talking about.
is there anything in your rhetoric that you would change in hindsight?
The question was a specific question that was asked about black contracts in particular.
So my opinion is that I think it's obvious. The mayor's obviously hiring people based on the color of their skin and not the content of their character.
I have a dream. My four little children will one day live in a nation where they will not be judged by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character. I have a dream.
So now, is the mayor of Chicago judging people by the content of their character or by the color of their skin? It seems to be an open question. So we'll see what the investigation proves. But right now, I don't think it's looking too good for the mayor. But as always, don't forget to like, share, subscribe to our YouTube.
Alright, I was trying to find a specific part.
So if an all-black mayor appoints all black people or an all-white mayor appoints all do. And the reason why they think it might violate the law is because even though Mayor Johnson can, his department thinks if their hiring practices don't violate the law. Well, the Justice Department thinks they do. And the reason why they think it might violate the law is because even though Mayor Johnson can hire all of the black people at the top levels of administration, he can't do that for all jobs. For instance, the assistants, the accountants, the police officers, everyone other than those top appointed officials. So when Mayor Johnson says, our people, black people, hire our people, black people, that makes it seem like he's being racist toward other people. And this is a quote that the Department of Justice is really concerned about. Listen to what Mayor Johnson says.
Our people hire our people. And so one of the ways in which we're ensuring, let me back up for a second. So when we say our people hire our Latin, 30% is white, 8% is Asian.
So Mayor Johnson said, hey, I appointed all of these people who happen to be black in these positions. The black people.
Alright, I'm not going to look for it that long, but there was a part where I believe Nate specifically, if it wasn't Nate, it was a news anchor that specifically talked about how this would be a violation of the law because of the Civil Rights Act. Now, you have some people that will push back, and I'm telling you, this is where I can see sometimes Charlie Kirk is on campus conversing with a student or someone who doesn't know much, and they'll spew certain things out that just are not true. And some people say, well, no, the Civil Rights Act was created, strictly, for black people, like only for black people. And I would say that that's a flawed perspective, right? If you're not supposed to discriminate against anybody based on the color of their skin, that would include the white people in the country as well. But you have people that would feel like because white people were not in slavery at the time in America, that it doesn't count towards them. That no, they didn't have any problems getting jobs, it was only the black people. So that law, that legislation was made specifically for black people. No, it actually was not. So if white people are being discriminated against who are American citizens or Hispanic people or whatever have you, it counts for all of those people, right? So we can't just sit there and say, well, there's no way that Scott Johnson could have violated the Civil Rights Act. Absolutely, there's a way that he could have violated it. All right, guys, so we're going to switch gears and we're going to jump over to CBS News. Elon Musk calls on Congress to kill Trump's budget bill. Let's take a listen.
Forges ahead on President Trump's big, beautiful bill. Elon Musk ramps up his criticism, calling to, quote, kill the bill. Musk says a new spending bill should be drafted that doesn't massively grow the deficit and increase the debt ceiling. Speaker Mike Johnson says we simply don't have time to start over. So let's bring in CBS News White House reporter Aaron Navarro to walk us through what we're hearing from Elon Musk and also the reaction now from the White House.
Yeah, Elon Musk looked to put political pressure yesterday and today in criticizing this budget bill that's been a priority of President Trump's. Elon Musk put on his website X, quote, call your senator, call your congressman, bankrupting America is not okay, kill the bill, end quote. And this only adds more political fire to those Republican detractors in the Senate.
This is Elon's X post right here. It says, Elon Musk, call your senator, call your congressman. Bankrupting America is not okay. Kill the bill.
Say that the president's quote, one big beautiful budget bill increases spending too much, which the White House is trying to tamp down. They can only lose 3 senators in this vote. And you're going to see members of the Senate Finance Committee visit the White House today as they're looking to convince them to essentially get their chamber in order and back this bill that the president has put a lot of political capital behind.
Aaron, also today, President Trump says he talked on the phone with Russian President Putin for over an hour. What came out of that call?
Yeah, some of the top lines were that President Trump said that Putin said, quote, very strongly that Russia would have to respond to those drone attacks from Ukraine over the weekend, where they essentially smuggled in drones through semi-trucks that impacted and damaged Russian aircrafts and bombers. Trump added about his call with Putin, quote, it was a good conversation, but not a conversation that will lead to immediate peace. Now, this post also comes days after there were talks between Russian and Ukrainian officials in Istanbul, though those did not result in much beyond an initial agreement to exchange prisoners. And just a couple of minutes ago, we heard from Ukrainian President Zelensky, who's...
This is President Trump from his X post. He says, I just finished speaking by telephone with President Vladimir Putin of Russia. The call lasted approximately 1 hour and 15 minutes. We discussed the attack on Russia's docked airplanes by Ukraine and also various other attacks that have been taking place by both sides. It was a good conversation, but not a conversation that will lead to immediate peace.
Said in response, referencing this announcement.
We're not shocked by that.
Quote, many have spoken with Russia at various levels, but none of these talks have brought a reliable peace.
All right, Aaron.
Yeah, and that's not shocking to us, right? It's crazy because as much as the person might drive some people crazy, I think Jasmine Crockett was one of the main people who went on record to say, when is Donald Trump going to do something about Vladimir Putin reneging on every single promise that he makes? We see that a lot. J.D. Vance brought it up on Air Force 2 when he talked about President Joe Biden's decline. He talked about, who was running the country at the time when the prostate diagnosis came out. And he did say he didn't know if it was the right time to have this conversation. Nonetheless, he brought it up. And then he also went to Putin because a reporter asked him about how is the peace talks going between Russia and Ukraine. And J.D. Vance made, I thought, was a great point. He said, a real question to ask here is, does Putin want a ceasefire? He makes some steps towards a ceasefire, and then he takes, he retracts about 10 steps back. He makes some moves that kind of hint and allude towards him wanting a ceasefire, and then it seems like he's not doing anything. So I think that that's something to seriously consider. So when President Trump says that, I was on the phone with him an hour and 15 minutes, great talk, talked about some things, but not a conversation that's going to lead to immediate peace. That's not shocking. Like, Putin's being very hard-headed right now. He's being extremely belligerent. And I know there are people who are like, President Trump, what are you going to do about this? Like, don't make America look weak. But President Trump is a lot more calculated than that. He's not going to just sit in the Oval Office and be like, you know what, we're going to war with Russia tomorrow. He's more calculated than that. But I think Putin needs to jump on board because we know if Donald Trump gets to the point where he's fed up, we know that things can change very swiftly. So we'll just be following it to see what happens next. Let me see what they have. Okay, yeah. So it was This is Cliff Buell, so shout out to Cliff Buell, guys. We usually end the live stream with a clip from Cliff Buell or another YouTube content creator that focuses on Christian content. So as a Christian, I like to be able to get this out to you guys, whether you are believers of Jesus or not. I still think that Jesus is for everybody. So we're gonna start Cliff's clip. The title of it tonight is "The Holy Spirit Touched Her. She Felt God's Love." Beautiful. Let's take a listen.
She realizes that the Quran is false and Jesus Christ is Lord. Watch this.
And Bible and Quran is two different directions. The Jesus of Quran is not the Jesus of the Bible. The Jesus of the Quran is coming back to break the cross, kill the fence, establish peace, say that Islam is one religion. That's according to Islam. The notion of Christianity to my forefathers is this Jesus has gone to prepare a place for those who he died for. He's going to receive them unto himself to go where he is. Wait a minute now. How will Jesus come? According to Quran? Nobody knows. The Bible teaches, and there shall be a sound of the archangel. Oh, glory. And there shall be trumpets, and they all fly with the filled with angels, my friend. And upon the blow of the trumpet, the dead in Christ shall rise first. And we shall grow and reign with that Jesus for 1,000 years. Jesus loved my sister.
She realizes that the Quran is false. This Christian preacher,
I think that that's
she realizes.
awesome. I think that that's awesome because you can see her reaction there, and you can see that it's pretty genuine. Like, she's pretty still-faced. She's just kind of listening to the preacher explain. And I love the way he starts out. He says the Jesus of the Quran and the Jesus of the Bible, those are two different directions. And I love the way that he starts out. You know, this is the kind of stuff that used to trip me out early on in ministry. I was pretty transparent about that on the channel, where I said, you know, I would ask people, you know, do you believe in God? And when they were Muslims, when I had friends that were Muslims specifically, and I still do, but this was much early on before I was studying, went to seminary, did any preaching, anything like that. And I would ask my friends, like, do you believe in God? And they would say, yeah, I believe in Jesus, you know. And I would just kind of leave it like that because I would be taken back like, oh, they actually said Jesus and I said God. And then, you know, through mentorship, I would have one of my mentors say to me, hey, you know, when people answer that question for you, instead of asking, like, do you believe in God, ask them, do they believe in Jesus? And then ask them, what do they believe about Jesus? And this is where I could have got to the core of the issue real fast, because it's true. They don't, in the nation of Islam, they don't believe in Jesus the way Christians do. Not evangelical Christians, or let's just say even if you're a Catholic Christian, whatever type of Christianity you are, the nation of Islam doesn't believe the same thing. They don't believe in the deity of Jesus Christ. So Jesus Christ is not God to them. Jesus is a prophet. He is important because when they are speaking about him, they always will say something after his name, which is basically blessings be upon him. So he is well respected, but not on the level of being God, just being a prophet like Elijah or like Moses. Yeah, and even talking about the way that God returns, like the Quran's very different based on what the Bible says. So I can appreciate, you know, this preacher being so transparent and being bold out in the middle of the street to literally say all of that. And you can see the gentleman that's a Muslim standing there. He's kind of shaking his head like, man, I'm not going for this. But the woman is locked in. She's locked in and she's paying attention. And we see, you know, a reaction from her, which I think is great because she realizes that Jesus is Lord. So shout out to you, Cliff. Thank you for your content, because it's because of you that I got in my live streams like this almost every single night. So keep going, my guys. Shout out to you. All right, guys. With that being said, I'm going to go ahead and end the live stream for tonight. We will be back on here tomorrow. Tomorrow we'll be jumping on. Tomorrow is Thursday. Yeah, so tomorrow we should be on around between 7 and 8 p.m. Yeah, guys, and with that being said, I'll see you guys tomorrow. Take care of yourselves. Take care of one another. Love yourselves and love one another. Be peaceful. Peace.